Good morning and good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to the eSellerCafe News Roundup. Today is the 14th of August, and we'll be taking a look at some of the headlines globally in e-commerce that have affected us this week. I am, of course, joined by Mr. Richard Meldner. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, and I'm again at the same place I was last Monday.
You're back in Milwaukee Airport. Consistency, I like it.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of consistency to this.
So yeah, Richard is traveling again, and there may be a point in time in this recording where Richard Hatchery has to go and jump on his plane. So just to give you fair warning, although the plane hasn't arrived yet, has it, Richard? So we should be okay.
Yes, we should probably be okay because no, the plane is not here
yet. Good stuff. And of course, Matt isn't here this week. It's his birthday today, and as part of the rule with the business that we run, you have your birthday off. It is compulsory. So Matt is not around today. We've had to go and make him do other things.
Is he traveling?
Is he traveling? I don't think so. He's probably just at home. He might be flying a very small version of what you're about to get on. I'm not sure.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. He may. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the weather's like where he is right now. Anyway, on to the main subjects of today. I'll give you a quick brief rundown of what we're going to be talking about, and before then getting a little bit more in depth. So we're going to kick off with the Trump administration keen to negotiate NAFTA. And how that benefits US e-commerce sellers. We put that first pure because that is Richard's domain, and we thought he might have to scoot early, but it looks like it will be okay. But still, very interesting on that one. Then we're looking at eBay's new browse and product pages, which got announced back in Open a couple of weeks ago. We're going to be having a bit of a chat around those. Smartphone use driving more online retail. Not that surprising, but we're going to have a little bit of a chat around smartphone use and how that's impacting e-commerce. The Amazon Treasure Truck is back again this year, and we're going to be taking a look at how they've actually expanded that and what that means for you over in the US if you're watching this. And then we have states trying to entice Amazon FBA sellers to collect sales tax themselves. That's a curious one as well. Again, another good Richard one. And then also PayPal buys online loan company Swift Financial. So again, lots going on in today's, also in this week's news. There's some of the highlights. Of course, all the links to the full stories, the full articles that we're talking about right now are available underneath this in the description. Just click the little show more button and the whole thing will expand. You'll see the links to the stories that we're going to be talking about. Also, feel free to head over to eSellerCafe.com, and there's loads more stories from the week. These are just the headlines, but there are other stuff. There is more stories over on the site as well, which we can't cram in to these news roundups. So, Richard, with that said, let's kick things off with Mr. Trump. It's a bit of a ropey one from what I gather here in UK, saying Trump's name right now with what's going on over there. But this is not to do with that. This is to do with renegotiating the North American Free Trade Agreement, and how the provision could benefit US e-commerce sellers. Tell us more.
Well, it's an interesting thing. Obviously, during the campaign last year, there was a lot of conversation about NAFTA. And so mostly when we deal with NAFTA here in the United States, it's always about, jobs leaving the United States, predominantly going to Mexico and so on and so forth. A lot of tweets from then candidate Trump about, various companies doing that. Mm-hmm. And, that got him obviously somewhat elected in this manufacturing base. It's been sort of neglected for the last 20 years. And really the realistic, there have been a number of studies done on NAFTA that basically showed that the job losses that were anticipated or that people think it is not the case. And that's probably net effect is actually kind of neutral because there's a lot of new jobs that get generated. And that's where e-commerce comes to play. Obviously, e-commerce over the last 10, 15 years has blown up quite a bit in the United States. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Trump's administration has suggested to Canada and Mexico is that they increase the duty-free portion of products being sold there. So for small sellers out to Canada or Mexico right now, they the recipient has to pay duty on items that are over $20 to Canada and over $50 to Mexico.
Wow! So there's quite a low threshold.
There's quite a low threshold, and when you look at the U.S. threshold, it's $800. So wow. and the thing is, U.S. buyers are typically don't buy from Canada or Mexico, but there's a lot of Mexican and Canadian buyers that buy from the United States.
Hmm.
And as having been a seller for many years myself, I always get the questions: can you declare lower? Can you do this? Can you do that? Or can you declare an item as made in the United States, because that's what NAFTA really is all about, even if it was made in China. And there's moral and legal issues there on what you cannot do. So what the U.S. trade representatives are attempting now to do is say, hey, let's get all on even footing here. Let's all be at the $800 number, and that obviously opens up great opportunities for U.S. sellers, and including large companies like Amazon, because they can now much easier send items to, or could much easier send items to Canada and Mexico without having to do all these or declarations and taxes being charged on the other end. Um,
Hmm.
and the other thing that would happen sometimes is some people would buy something from the United States not realizing how much taxes get added onto it, and then wouldn't pick up the package, and then it would get shipped back to the seller. So this will if this comes to fruition, this would really truly benefit the U.S. e-commerce sellers. And of course, in an irony of all of this, the Canadian and Mexican retail associations all freaked out over this, because they're now thinking, oh, wait a second, this will open up all markets to U.S. But it's a bit of an irony in all of that, especially when you consider, the anti-globalism that Trump sort of has spouted through the last year,
Yeah, yeah.
that he actually go out and say, we want to open up the markets, So something to watch. Could be obviously just a bargaining position, because clearly NAFTA is about a lot more. Um, and we'll see, but any increase in the duty-free portion will be beneficial to U.S. commerce sellers,
Yeah.
and so it's definitely worth following to see if that will happen, and if it does, then try to take advantage of it by promoting that on websites and listings and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's a curious one, because I'm not sure if US sellers are going to be that aware, but here in Europe, we have Amazon have something called the European Fulfillment Network, which basically means that you can sell something in the UK, and you can get your product shipped to an Italian or German or French fulfillment center, and then someone who buys from there will get it dispatched from their local fulfillment center. Now, Amazon could do something very similar with Mexico and Canada now. If that agreement comes into place, you could have the Pan American fulfillment network. Or do you that could be an interesting one?
Yes and no, because the Amazon already is doing that with Mexico. When they open up Mexico, they
Mm-hmm.
already offer the ability to take products from the United States to Mexico under NAFTA rules, which
Oh, okay.
as long as they're made in the U.S., they would be duty free. But if they're made somewhere else, then they would be duty. Now, it could open up certain things on individual sales, and or they might be able, like eBay here in the U.S. has that international global selling program.
Yep.
Might be able to manage it through that a lot easier. I don't know that you're right. There could be some possibilities for the fulfillment network, um, but there are also already provisions. And
Oh,
that's
okay.
important. It's a very, very much a different situation than Europe, the EU, where you
Mm.
pretty much send things all across the country without, with minimal paperwork. There's still quite a bit of paperwork involved in sending things from the U.S. to Canada or to Mexico when you're an individual seller. At least you have to do a declaration,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I don't think that's the case from many shipments within the EU nowadays. So it's there are definitely positives here, and let's hope that is one area that they will stick to a little bit, and try to loosen up, because I think it will benefit a lot of U.S. sellers, and it would, quite frankly, give Trump a very easy, quote unquote, 140 character win, and,
Very, very
and he
true.
needs
Very
those,
true.
and he needs those. So I could see this being something that he could really push on, and if nothing else, then he can turn around and say, well, you people are being protectionist, and so why are you complaining about us? So that's a political side of it, um, but regardless of that, anything that benefits U.S. e-commerce sellers is a good thing, regarding of the politics or who is pushing for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, it's
And,
an
and,
interesting one. And sorry, Richard, go
yeah,
on.
yeah, let me add to that too, that eBay has pushed for that 3-4 times before themselves with the
Yeah.
Canadian government. So this is not something that was thrown, just pulled out of a hat. This has been something that's been, been bounced on a number of times. Was also part of the renegotiation, part of negotiation with TPP, with the Pacific Trade Agreement that Trump pulled out of. So it had been brought up. So this is not something new, but this might be the best attempt at getting this lifted, not lifted, but raised than before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know that eBay Canada, yeah, if eBay Canada could do something with eBay.com, then obviously that would definitely make their life a lot easier. So in regards to expanding the Canadian marketplace, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have to keep our eye on that one. It could be, let's say, it could be a good thing.
Yeah.
On to the next one. We have eBay's new browse and product pages. Now, this is what happened, or what got announced at the eBay Open event for 2017. What's the gist there, Richard? What's going on with these new browse and product pages?
Well, the gist there is it's kind of, some people call it the Amazonification of eBay by creating a product page.
Yep.
That you have to then, try to compete for position on. And to some extent, that is correct. eBay has created 200 million browse and product pages. And there's a difference between the two. And if you go in the article, it kind of explains that. And the benefit is that it gives eBay a constant link point for Google and Bing to a lesser extent, so that they don't always have to be linking to pages that disappear. And that was part of the spat between Google and eBay over the years, that eBay would use tricks and SEO to bring up these individual listings, but then if somebody would actually go to one of those links, then half the time the listing was already sold or gone or whatever, and that is why they had their little fight a few years back on what to do, and all of a sudden eBay listings dropped off Google. So now this will change. So this will change a little bit, the whole dynamic, because it creates this permanent page, and that makes it easier for Google shoppers. Now the next thing is everybody that is listing is going to have to compete on service, price, and all the various other items. And you can pretty much, looking at it, if you don't use item specifics, you're going to be downgraded. If you don't have a good return policy, you're going to be downgraded. So it's going to impact those lazy sellers that just never want to do anything, and those that want to take advantage of it and get this highly rated as possible are going to have to do some work to get their listings up. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's overall a good thing, and it's a lot more transparent about what's going to happen than like with Amazon, when you don't know, when do I get to the buy box?
Yeah.
And you're hidden away down in the lower right-hand corner, but you're in a whole line list of listings, which so you have the top part that is the product page, and the bottom part, which is really all the listings. So it's a little fairer, a little better system than Amazon. And
yeah,
and I think people just have to adjust to the reality. That's what you're going to have now, and you just have to adjust your listings to make it work.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very fair point. Obviously, we've said this for years. It's eBay's world. We just sort of play in it, and ultimately, when they bring about changes, the best sellers are the ones who adapt and learn how to play under the new rules. And no matter how much you kick and scream and complain that you preferred it the old way, guess what? You're just wasting your breath. Ultimately, someone somewhere, in fact, a team of people in San Jose have decided that this is what's going to happen, and that's it. And I know when we were looking at the page.
I'm sorry. This is truly a good a good thing, because it increases the ability of Google searches to be relevant, which is not relevant, and that's at the end of the day what you got to look at.
That's it. I mean,
it's not one of those other goofy things where you're trying to rework the feedback system or what stars mean and all that. This is truly more to help sellers gain more exposure in the long run if they do the right things.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I remember, in fact, I've seen graphs. I should have dug one out, really. It's which showed the drop off of eBay returns and Google searches when I think it was 2015. When they got slapped with the Google update, and it was literally like a cliff. It just plummeted. Like eBay searches, bang, and then it sort of has crept slightly up since, but not enough. And there's been a few clues over with, especially with some marketing that eBay have been doing recently, that they're sort of cozying up a little bit with Google. I think it was actually on their advert, the video for their image search, the little mobile phone that they used when it spun it around, it had a Google logo on the back. So as if they were using Google.
Then think about Google Home. Remember that's
exactly a big huge working together on Google Home.
Yep.
So I think eBay and Google working, being friends again is definitely a good thing for sellers. Google has huge amounts of search results and it's a huge amounts of traffic. So if you can bring in eBay, if they can bring your products into that search, that's a good thing. My one comment on the browser product pages was that they were maybe not as human friendly as we would have liked. Really, you can tell that they've been made for Google and sort of SEO purposes. Very keyword rich, very static in terms of the content. And like I said, with the new catalog system, it works well because the chances of that product going out of stock are much lower now than what previously would have been. There'll be another seller to fill that gap. So yeah, no, it's a good thing. They're maybe not the prettiest to see, and no doubt some sellers are not going to like them. But like you said, the high level takeaway here is if Google's happy, that's a good thing for sellers because it's bringing more traffic, it's bringing more buyers, and ultimately more transactions. So.
Exactly. And the one thing you have to remember is that so many people are still refusing to put proper item specifics into their listings that unless eBay gets that information where it then can use it and then provide better information to a buyer, they really can't improve on these. And so I think the fact that they started with what they got right now, at least it gives them a starting point. And as they make mandatory certain item specifics to be included, I think it will improve the browsing experience for buyers. And then that will help that situation like we talked about being a little too static, a little too boring.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I said this in a video last week that I did. The fundamentals of selling online are, it's basically to win selling online, it's simplicity done perfectly. eBay's not asking you to do anything hard. They're asking you to describe a product in 80 characters, to take some good pictures of the product, to write a small paragraph about what the features and benefits of it are, and to fill in some item specifics. There's nothing there which is difficult about what they're asking you to do, and yet still so many sellers cannot be bothered out of laziness, out of whatever it is, and that's why they're not winning. And I don't know how, what it will take for sellers to actually care enough about the listings to fill in the item specifics. They are like dynamite on eBay listings. You do them properly, you're going to jump up the search ranks. More people are going to find you, and yet still so many people don't do it. I don't know how often, how much longer I have to keep shouting about item specifics.
Yeah, I know, and I guess it's a lot easier to bitch on forums on other
exactly as to why your sales aren't in, rather than actually spending the time writing a few more item specifics down. Incredible. Right. Anyway, rant over. Yes, absolutely. The product and the browser pages should be interesting to see how they come into play, and ultimately, I think, like Richard said, will be a good thing where Google is concerned. Now, next up, we have smartphone use is driving more online retail. This is, it's not really new news, is it? It's more or less confirming what we all know. More and more business now is being conducted, especially e-commerce, on smartphones. eBay, I'm sure they probably mentioned it in eBay Open, but the event here in Catalyst in Manchester that I went to, Pierre, who was one of the guys from eBay UK, openly came out and said, we now develop for mobile first and then do desktop and tablet stuff. So the mobile phone is by far the biggest focus for the likes of eBay, and I'm sure Amazon as well. Just running through a few facts that we've got here. In the UK, smartphone retailer sales increased by 26% last year. Beauty products increased 42% on search, and apparel increased 38%. And yeah, smartphone e-commerce is also driving business in emerging markets, with Estonia seeing a 77% increase in sales from smartphones. Now, people might look at or listen to this going, Estonia? What? Estonia is one of the most emerging countries. Like they have ridiculously fast internet. I think everywhere has blanket 4G. They have fast Wi-Fi available. It's I'm very jealous, but yeah, it's not surprising that
you live in a major city in the UK and you get something just barely above dial-up. Huh?
Absolutely, not for much longer though. I'm hoping, but yeah, no, and that's the thing. It's like I live in the second largest city in the UK. Who's Birmingham? We don't even talk about Birmingham, but we live in the biggest city in the north, at least, and yeah, can't even get decent internet. But yeah, so smartphone use driving more online retail. It's just further, acknowledgement that if your website is not mobile optimized, if it isn't a fluid user experience from start to finish, you're gonna be losing traffic. You're gonna be losing buyers, and also losing that conversion. So, Richard, you got anything to add on that one?
Yeah, and actually, I posted a story this morning. I'll probably just talk about it real quick because it's
go for it. Yeah,
and then we can skip it next week, which is about Amazon rumor from Reuters that Amazon's going to get into Ticketmaster's business, which is the event tickets, sports and music and so on. And and one of the things that Ticketmaster has been really piss poor at, for lack of a better word, is mobile. And
that is true.
And so they even they actually decided to go with some company called Game Time, I think it was called, to try to get some of the mobile customers. If Amazon's going to get into this, clearly they're going to approach it from mobile first, and make it friendlier to purchase things. There's a lot of issues with that. Maybe we'll get into it in next week a bit, but it shows that if Amazon sees an opportunity to get into a market, and especially if there's somebody else in that market that's not managing the mobile market, why would you not get into it? Because that's where your growth is today.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it is an interesting piece on the Ticketmaster one as well, because that is, again, another industry which, Ticketmaster here in the UK is still probably one of the largest people that do events and things. Live Nation is another one. But the whole process of buying tickets.
Yeah, Live Nation, Ticketmaster, the same company.
Oh, are they really? I just thought it was a different website.
They might, in the UK, they separate themselves, but at least here in the US, Live Nation is the promotion side of it, but Ticketmaster is the ticket side of it.
But yeah, no matter what you use for like buying tickets, it is a pain if you're on a phone. It is definitely a desktop experience, which isn't great if you're out and about. I remember I was in Luxembourg and my sister was asking me to look for Ed Sheeran tickets whilst I was in Luxembourg. She's in London and asking me to do it. But anyway, so I was on my phone. I was like, and I actually saw a link for Amazon tickets, because Amazon must have got a batch of them for the Ed Sheeran gig. And it was so much easier to use. They even had like this mini stadium, like arena map where I could zoom in. It was all very click and drag friendly, responsive. You don't get that on Ticketmaster. And then you have to wait for the page to load. You have to fill in the captcha form, and you can't read it properly because you're on a phone device. The whole industry stinks of disruption, and that's just Amazon's ball game, isn't it? It's just like, we can disrupt this.
Yeah, what can we disrupt? Easy.
Yeah, exactly. So again,
what can we scale on our AWS platform quickly if we need to?
Oh yeah, I mean with AWS as well, that ticket thing would be well fast. So it would, interesting for sure. And on the topic of Amazon, let's move on to the Amazon Treasure Truck. Is back again for 2017, and this time is actually leaving Seattle for the first time. What is the treasure truck? Have you ever come across the treasure? Probably not, being in Florida, but do you know much about it? You know anyone who's been?
No, we just have those fake treasure cruises where they go to some place in coral reefs and say, "Look, there's something down there." They charge you $50 a person to go in there. The typical tourist traps. No, seriously, I've never. I mean, obviously, being in Seattle, no. I think this is a PR stunt more than anything. It's kind of takes a little bit on that. I almost call it like the food truck, thing.
Yep.
They're just trying it's not a real big business in this. Let's face it. This is just a way to get the Amazon name out, do some branding, do some cool stuff with maybe sales and things like that. But as far as being a profitable money making thing, I'm sure that's not what it is. It's a marketing exercise,
Yeah.
and so it does make sense to go to other places around the country. Now that they've obviously found that there must be interest in this, and they went through the process of trademarking the name and all that. So I can see them continue to do it just to kind of create hype throughout the year and go into different locations and and
Yeah.
and make make a little bit of a local business hay out of it, so to speak.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Because again, for anyone in the UK who may not have come across the Amazon Treasure Truck or anywhere else in the world, to give you an idea, last year they started this. It was like a big truck which would stop around Seattle, and they would run like deals, and you could buy them on the Amazon app, and then go and collect them from the treasure truck, and you'd get these deal prices. Anyway, this year it's coming to Atlanta, Dallas, Chicago, Houston, and LA. So again, pretty big cities.
All cities with lots of traffic, which makes you kind of wonder why they picked them.
And yeah, can't imagine the treasure truck getting out of LA. Gee, I struggled, and I wasn't driving a truck. But yeah, treasure truck carries. Sorry, go on, Richard.
Maybe they're going to put it on the 405 in LA, and they'll just sit there and it'll slowly move along, as people like to traffic and get out and buy something. I don't know.
Yeah, that maybe they get doing an Amazon Treasure June buggy, which is just going to ride down Santa Monica.
There you go.
Yeah, the treasure truck carries a variety of sale products, from laptops to books to gadgets. And yeah, it's a pickup service. Like I mentioned, you order it on the app, go and pick it up from the truck. And yeah, Richard has hit the nail on the head. This is not a new outlet for Amazon. This is Amazon doing what we now would call physical marketing. Amazon can be everywhere in terms of like Facebook, AdWords. They can do the digital stuff fine. And obviously the TV stuff, but bringing it into the physical world, instead of having billboards, they're just going to get a truck and blast it with Amazon branding and create a bit of a buzz about it by offering deals to people, get people taking pictures, selfies with it. It's a very clever idea. Like I said, it's just marketing buzz. It's taking an online business into the physical world and yeah, getting people to talk about it and get people hyped about Amazon. So bit of a cool one. Will we ever see like the European treasure truck? Probably at some point. It wouldn't surprise me. Again, I imagine it's relatively easy for Amazon to do. It's not huge overheads in terms of their business. And yeah, like I said, it's a bit of fun. I remember a few years ago, eBay did the pop-up shop on Oxford Street in around Christmas time, where they would do like daily deals and that and again have them in store, so you could actually go and pick them up in store. It's a similar idea, but Amazon just put it on wheels and are moving it around.
Yeah, and again, if they do it in London, we're back to that LA problem. It's not going to move very fast.
Yep, very true. Nothing moves fast in London, unless in LA. Maybe he can pilot Elon Musk's new undercar sled system.
By the way, my plane's not here, so we got plenty of time.
Oh, good. Anyway, next up, staying on the topic of Amazon, states in the US are trying to entice Amazon FBA sellers to collect sales tax. What's going on here, Richard? And this is surely an interesting bit of a move here.
Yeah, I mean, let's start out with this, that we're not providing legal advice with, because it's really
absolutely. We're not posting any sort of legal or accounting advice ever.
No, not us. And what it boils down to is, the United States have been fighting. The various states have been fighting with mail order catalogs going back before the internet. About sales tax, and there was a famous case between, I think it was the state of North Dakota and Quill Corp, which is a large mail order company providing office supplies, and that they were trying to get them to collect sales tax to items they shipped all over the country. And they were trying to tie it into something called a service, some kind of service software or whatever, and went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the state lost. And since then, there has been this discussion about what we call Nexus, the connection of an online retailer or mail order company having a warehouse, office, etc., in a state, and that creates then the linkage with Nexus for that retailer to collect sales tax in that state. Um, Amazon fought this for years because they've had warehouses and stuff. There was all kinds of loopholes and tricks they used to try to get around it, but eventually a lot of these Amazon laws were passed in various states, and Amazon itself is pretty much collecting sales tax in, I would say, more than half of the states now in the United States. So the problem is, what do you do with the smaller sellers? Because Amazon really doesn't want to get into sales tax collection, either as eBay, and and this nexus, becomes an issue of, is it really a legal nexus or not a legal nexus? So now they're trying to entice small businesses by saying, well, if you voluntarily adhere, join this program now that we're rolling out, then we won't make you responsible for back taxes. And the theory there is that typically a retailer is responsible for sales tax collection, whether they collect the sales tax or not. Okay, and so there are usually statute of limitations of like 3 years or so, but in any way, that they're coming up with what they call voluntary program, and yeah, on the surface it sounds like, hey, this is a good thing to jump into, but I think because they're doing it voluntarily, because of how it is being presented, it makes me personally think they really know they don't have nexus with the inventory, because the claim is that if you use Amazon FBA and your inventory is, let's say, your Florida company and your inventory is in Michigan and California, that you now have to collect sales tax in Michigan and California. Around the country, you're going to have, you might have 10 or 12 jurisdictions, and keep track of that, So it just really creates a lot of oddities that I don't know. This is why I said in the article, I think it's something to talk to with your accountant, with a attorney, because I'm not so sure that the states are going to be on good footing here. And the fact is, most small retailers aren't going to try to sue and take it all the way to the Supreme Court, because that's very costly. So unless a retail association wants to get behind fighting this, which could happen, but usually those retail associations, work for larger corporations, and they already have to collect tax, because they have nexus in all the states, since they have usually stores and warehouses. So, yeah, I don't know. There's, to me, there's a lot of gray area here. It seems like we're trying to twist they're trying to extract money from sellers without actually having a legal standing, in my opinion. Because if they had a true legal standing, they would have.
They wouldn't be trying to cut deals with them.
Yeah, they wouldn't have not used the word voluntarily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. It's like, if they're making this into a voluntary program. It's like, well, if it's a voluntary program, why do you have to participate?
Yeah, I'm going to choose no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only threat they're putting out there, so we might collect back taxes from you. It's like, well, then again, well, if you think you have legal standing and you need the money, why aren't you collecting it?
I guess they've shown their hand to be a little bit weak with the wording that they've got there, in as much as it seems like they don't really know what they're doing. They know what they want, they just don't know how to get it. And the communication has been a little bit vague. And that's, sellers are switched on people. This watching. If you're watching us right now, you guys are not stupid. You're not going to start handing over money that you don't need to hand over. It just reminds me a little bit of the issue that Australia was having with their GST, and the government trying to tax everything that came into Australia that was bought overseas, but getting the likes of eBay and Amazon to collect the tax. It's like, well, that's not going to happen. They're not going to get involved with that. And it's really here, FBA sellers, it's like, well, are you going to ask Amazon to keep track of this? They're not going to be doing that. That's not in their interest. They're the worst at paying tax. Trust them with their numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's, that brings up the whole quagmire, just because, what is significant nexus? Is this one item, mean significant nexus, or is it $2,000, $10,000 worth of
Yeah.
product? And is Amazon going to generate a monthly report where your product is? What do you do with commingled inventory? Who is responsible for a box that's sitting in Michigan, when three people could technically have access to that box because three sellers sell it, I mean, I sort of not.
Are you gonna? Do they? I don't know how it works. Do they collect tax on shipping over there or not? Is it just items?
That can vary from state to state. I don't know. So.
Well, would you then key a system in, or like an you start pricing 100 and putting like $100 shipping on it, so price it back up? There's a lot of it is an awful lot of grey area there.
Yeah, it's just something we wanted to make people aware. It wasn't really covered very well, and I think people just need to know that this is being discussed, and how much, and that there is this amnesty program, as they call it right now, available, if you really choose to wanting to participate, so.
Yeah, but that's not going to be a long list.
I don't see it being a long list either. So.
But again, we could not possibly give you advice on tax or accounting matters.
No, personal opinions only. So
I'm not sure I would be voluntarily giving away such information.
Yeah.
And finally, Richard,
here we go. My plane is actually here. People have gotten off it too. So now they're fueling it up. So that I might actually leave for once.
Have we got time to quickly go through the last piece on PayPal?
What was the last piece on our list?
The Loan Capital Swift Financial.
That one.
PayPal
that's a pretty short one.
What's the last one for today? So quickly, we'll run through that one.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Swift Financial as a company has been around for 10 years. They have been providing. They became really big after the meltdown, global bank meltdown, and pretty much small business loans dried up. So they offered kind of higher interest small business loans based upon performance of the store, of your business. You have to provide some typical information you provide to the bank, such as your credit reports, bank statements, accounting statements, etc., so on and so forth. And they were willing to lend up to $500,000. Well, PayPal Working Capital kind of jumped into this working capital scheme as well, except that they restricted it mostly on what they knew, which is how much money was going through a PayPal account, and that was really the only basis that they used. So PayPal obviously is looking to expand. And I don't think that, it's not so much that what Swift was doing is any secret. It's just that they probably have a lot of data, and as far as risk management is concerned, that probably PayPal just wanted to get their hands on so that they can expand their program better. So I think this is mostly about gaining market data and best practices for lending money, loaning money. And not so much about anything that they have as far as technology or so is concerned. So, or even the customer base. I think it's Swift's customer base is like only 20,000 from what I read. So, it's got to be about market data and how they made best decisions on who to loan money to and how much.
Yeah, again, very important for any loan company, and obviously Swift Financial have got. I'm sure PayPal have been able to do the due diligence, work out, look at the profits, and see, as if Swift Financial are good at this, they're making money. Ticks all the boxes, bring them on board, get the knowledge, and like I say, maybe wrap it up under PayPal Working Capital.
Yeah, that's what I believe. What this is all about. I don't think they bought anything else but data.
Yeah. Do we know how much it was? How much the acquisition was for?
No, that was not disclosed. It might get disclosed to the next PayPal quarterly results. They usually disclose these type of things there. So that's the other side of it. I can't imagine that it was for a whole lot of money. No. But then again, we know these, especially Silicon Valley companies, if they want
pay over the odds. Yeah.
If they want some information that they don't have, or that costs them or takes them too long to acquire themselves, they're maybe willing to just pay somebody to get it, and that's what I
pay
think.
their way out of the problem for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, if they paid these people $30 or $50 million, it's nothing to PayPal,
No,
It could be a
absolutely
big,
not,
it
and
could be a
that's
big deal.
a huge deal to the people who set it up.
Yeah, exactly. So
right, fantastic. So in order to do a quick recap of what we've covered today, we look at the Trump administration and the renegotiations of NAFTA and how that could benefit US e-commerce sellers. Very interesting news on that one. We took a look at the eBay browse and product pages, which got announced at eBay Open 2017, and how that is basically good news if you're a seller, as it will be much more Google friendly and hopefully drive some more traffic to your items from the mighty Google. We discussed smartphone use and how it's driving more online retail searches, and ultimately, the big guys now are optimizing mobile first and then doing desktop, and ultimately you should be doing the same. We talked about the Amazon's treasure truck coming back this year, how it will be visiting Atlanta, Dallas, Chicago, Houston, and LA, as well as Seattle, where obviously Amazon is based. Again, bit of a physical marketing outing there for Amazon. Always nice to see. Then Richard told us about the states trying to entice Amazon FBA sellers to collect sales tax. That's a very curious one. It all seems very vague, bit of a gray area, trying to get people to voluntarily get involved when they don't really have to. Yeah, it's going to, again, Richard made a great point. This is just sort of giving you some forewarning as to what is going on so you can keep up to date with it. Maybe chat with your accountant, find out what they know. So is it something you need to be worried about or not? As it stands right now, we don't think there's any action you should take. But of course, this is not tax or legal advice given by ourselves. This is just personal opinion. And finally, PayPal has bought online loan company Swift Financial for what we suspect is a bit of a data grab, in order to extend how PayPal working capital may work and the services that they're able to provide. So they have been the main news stories from today. I would like to say a massive thank you for you watching or listening to this right now. Really appreciate it. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to let us know in the comment section down below. We do read all of them, and we will. So someone from last week sent over a story that we should research, so we will get looking into that. And also, of course, a massive thank you to Richard for managing to join us today. I did think you'd be in the air when this was taking place, Richard, but smited by the airline travel gods once again.
I think what we need to do is we need to thank American Airlines again, the second week in a row, that they gave us the opportunity for me to participate in this call by making sure that the flight is delayed.
Which is far too valuable to this company for him to be in the air whilst this happens. So yeah, thank you, American Airlines. Fantastic.
Right.
So Richard, thank you as always for joining us. Have a safe flight, and we'll catch up in the week. And for you guys, we will see you as always next Monday for another eSellerCafe e-commerce news roundup.
Yep.
Thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you.
Take care. Bye-bye.